Radio with your host jonahbolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3.
You may be a little bit back from the phone or something, I don't know, but I hear you like a little echo.
We are live. You're listening to Starseed Radio. We're joined by Mr. Dave Parker. Dave, am I coming through okay? Can you hear me?
I hear you. How are you?
Doing great. Today is January 7th, 2016. We're going to be talking about the 2016 elections today. We're going to be talking about Oregon. I've asked Mr. Dave Parker to join us from the Free Energy Party. I think it's an amazing movement that I support and many others support. What they stand for and what they're about. We're going to get into that in just a minute. But before we start the show, we are broadcasting live from San Jose, Costa Rica. It's good to be back on the airways this week. We had an amazing webinar yesterday, the last final series of Synergy number 5. I want to give a big shout out and thanks to everyone who joined us yesterday. It was really high energy. We're going to get it up on YouTube as quickly as possible so everyone can get the downloads that were given yesterday. Really high vibrational information. So thank you everybody for participating in that. I also want to give a quick shout out to Starseed Radio. Check us out for the latest news and updates. We also have Starseed Technologies, and we have Starseed Gold, which is an amazing new gold-backed exchange system that I'm involved with and many others. If you have questions on that, contact me. We're here to be of service. So with that, we're going to get the show started with our daily quote, which goes, "Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics." That quote, Albert Einstein. Thank you, Albert, for that. And now we're joined by Mr. Dave Parker from the Free Energy Party, who's joined us on the show before. And I love having Dave on the show, Dave, because you're very upfront, frank, and to the point. And that's what we like here on Starseed Radio. So thank you for joining us today. How are you? And Happy New Year's.
Well, Happy New Year to you and to all the listeners. Really good to hear your voice coming in loud and clear on this end.
Excellent. Good. So there's been a lot of movement, Dave, as you know, the last few weeks. And we could start to show off. Let's talk about the 2016 elections. Lots of movement in that area. There's been a lot of talk about Hillary Clinton making statements about investigating Area 51, about disclosing ETs. That information has been all over the internet on Huffington Post and many different news outlets. So there's a lot of chatter with that going on. And of course, we have Mr. Trump trumping along, talking about the Second Amendment rights. He's not going to let Obama take the guns away. So give us your download, Dave. You are founder of the Free Energy Party. So if you would, give the listeners a little background on what the Free Energy Party is about, and then we'll go right into Hillary and Trump.
The Free Energy Party is a legal political party registered with the Federal Election Commission that was formed about 3.5 years ago. And in that time, we've spread and begun to go progressively more viral with a simple platform to bypass the problem by introducing the solution. And the biggest when we identify the problems we see in the world today, we realize that the petrochemical monopoly has purchased our government. And so it's a surprise to most people to find out or to realize that over 90% of pharmaceuticals, which in the United Kingdom, the pharmaceuticals are the third leading cause of death, and it's between the third and the fourth one here in the United States where we're speaking from. And that over 90% of those drugs have oil, war over oil as the basis from which they're the components. When you have catalogs like whether it's Aldrich, you order chemicals, it's made by petrochemical companies. It's not made by the processes involving hemp. It's not made by algae. It's not made by kudzu or anything that grows wild that's free. It actually comes from war over oil, essentially. And so basically the war over oil and environmental destruction can be avoided instead of just fighting with our problem by setting up a new paradigm of free energy, and we can define that as a free source. Someone can say there's no free energy, that goes against the second law of thermodynamics, but in fact, there's free sources of energy, and so no one can you really argue that the sun is not free, or that the waves are not free, or that geothermal is not free, and that can you allege that no one can come up with an iteration of magnetic motors or any other exotic technologies, and that using free source type energy, and this is well proven. It's not just guesswork that there is in fact this kind of solution in the world, just as Edwin Gray was documented, given an award by then Governor of California Ronald Reagan, the U.S. patent lawyers, the invention of the year award, as the patent lawyers documented it, and it was documented by Bing Crosby, who had Crosby Research Labs and Transworld Labs, a multiple of laboratories showing that this is free energy, and there we're defining free energy as more out than in. So actually the fear that there's no free energy has been laid aside, but when you own the media, when you own the entire government virtually, it's easy to just take people back and say nothing is real. But the tripod platform of the Free Energy Party is to replace this war over oil by making the people the power producers, decentralizing the grid, and making the people precious for a change instead of worthless, while oil is precious. And so oil is no longer a strategic asset that justified as a pretext to genociding, carpet bombing nations to take over this oil, when you have proofs of alternate and clean and, if you will, free energy all around us. And so we need to move forward and bypass this fight by bringing in the proofs of this, and the Free Energy Party is setting up planned tours of showing what some people say is over-unity, and other people tell us avoid the word. Over-unity meaning more, unity meaning more out than in, but a hydrogen process where we have an inventor whose name we're keeping secret, and a test lab from Fort Worth will tell you that showed without question, an independent test lab showing that there's a process that's about 333% more efficient than anything the Department of Energy ever heard about. And people in the hydrogen field say, well, the figures you've just given me, which is basically 20 liters per minute requiring 500 watts, that's basically over unity. Well, we want to avoid those terms. And we will say, though, that it's wonderful that we can take the water out of the air, and that with a 5,000 watt generator, it only takes 500 watts to generate that 20 liters per minute, and you can run that generator.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you brought up a really good point, and I want to really home in on this, because there's a big name out there named Tesla, and Tesla Corporation has really duped the American people with their battery system and their power pack. When you're talking about over unity, I want the listeners to really understand what you're saying here. There is infinite energy where we don't need a Tesla lithium-ion battery attached to every house across the world. I think that Tesla himself would be turning over in his grave thinking that 100 years after he passed, the Tesla Corporation came out with a battery pack for the house, which still draws energy off fossil fuels. So when you talk about over unity, listeners, please understand there is tons of technology out there, like hydrogen, like David's explaining, where we can grasp infinite information, infinite energy without using fossil fuels, without digging in the mountains for lithium-ion batteries and everything else. So people have really been doing.
It's really important.
Yes.
You're really well worded, and you sound believable and enthusiastic. Your voice is the voice of a leader, and I really admire the work that you're doing, getting the word out. What you're saying right now is so important for the listeners. people don't realize that for centuries there have been children being killed in the area of scarcity minerals. And the worry that Afghanistan was taken over for oil is true. There was a pipeline going up. Everyone from Cheney and everyone was involved in pipeline wars over in first invading Afghanistan under the false flag of 9/11, with the same players involved right now trying to make their way into Iran still to take over a new pipeline war. But back to the point. In Afghanistan, besides illegal market for opium that's going to the mafia and other people like this, and is that why some people say that sometimes the one soldier an hour kills themselves because they never dreamed of being involved in like protecting dictators and committing war over oil. But these scarcity minerals like lithium there in Afghanistan, we can avoid wars over scarcity minerals and over scarcity commodities. There's an enzyme that is 10 times more efficient than the lithium-ion battery. That's 10. That's not 1, not 2. Again, how would you like to be twice as good looking or have twice as much money? Well, this is 10 times as much efficient than a lithium, and it uses an enzyme and sugar. So there. And when we look at the abundant materials like there are many, many materials that are just free, and they don't use up anything, like graphene, which is biodegradable, and it's superior to our current battery technology. But when we make hydrogen, we can use a fuel cell more efficiently than a regular generator. We can show that generator working on stage just to get to everybody's imagination. We can show that we can get the water out of the air, and then we can convert the water in a higher efficient process that is available in the world, known by anyone. We can show that we can turn that into power. But the generator is actually about like a China, made in China generator is like about 28% efficient. And a fuel cell that actually you put the hydrogen in, you separate the oxygen out. They're already self-separated, frankly. They come off of an independent electrode. So the hydrogen comes out. You put that into a fuel cell, and it's 80 to 86% efficient in turning into electricity. So basically, a really cheap process can power everything individually. You can have your laptop basically run on water. You can have everything you've got, even in a micro circuit with maybe a wristwatch or a TV or anything that you wanted could actually run very, very, very efficiently off of water pulled out of the air.
Very powerful stuff when you're talking about even atmospheric generators that pull water out of the air. There's humidity everywhere, even in deserts. There's even natural things to build. There's plans I've seen. You could build a water capture 11 feet tall in the desert of the Sahara that captures 25 gallons a day for as little as $20. And I've posted those articles up. So there's many systems. Now, let's go into a little bit, when you're talking about lithium and this, you have this whole Oregon situation with the BLM, with the Bundy Ranch. Now, there's been a lot of talk. There's huge deposits of lithium. There's huge deposits of all the minerals on the land. And the BLM is grabbing millions of acres. So we know there's a lot more going on in the story than what meets the eye, don't we, Dave?
Yes. I met with an author of a book in Utah who had written about the BLM showing the takeover over many, many years, through the progression of many, many years in American history of land that was rich in oil shale that they imagined would offer about 1,000 to 2,000 years of oil supply just from the oil shale. Now, we know how destructive this kind of technology is. Even if someone comes in with a side argument, well, you wouldn't need war